when it comes to Kamala, I mean, listen, when Kamala said this ain't a racist country, she lost me, and she ain't got me back yet. And not that matters. I'm just little Amanda. She the one in the White House. But ooh, child.
They always crying about something. This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com. TatumStore.com. Get the merch link in the description section. The coldest shirt that we make. See, I'm wearing a hoodie. We ain't even dropped the hoodies yet. But Anti-Grooming Social Club. Get this if you disagree with the way they're trying to groom our children. Link is in the description section. Go to the store. Like and subscribe to the channel. Y'all already know what to do. Let's get into this. All right. I want to play the clip of this young lady and kind of what she said. And I'm going to debunk what she said right after she completed her statement. Roll the clip.
When it comes to Kamala, I mean, listen, when Kamala said this ain't a racist country, she lost me, and she ain't got me back yet. And not that matters. I'm just little Amanda. She the one in the White House. But ooh, child, that one right there.
Well, we all know we're in a racist America. She has to know that she's in a racist America. Do you think that was her speaking to the hopes of not wanting to live in a racist America?
She can't do that.
Right.
We have shooters that are going into places and killing people because of their race. And then we're not calling it domestic terrorism. We have an entire culture of police that are killing black people and getting away with it because the law says they can. We have a country that was 1,000% built on the foundation of racism that now legislators are trying to pretend didn't happen and are getting that through and doing it on an education level and on a DEI level. You cannot, as the second in line to the highest form of office in this country, make a message on hope. You, in my opinion, is particularly not just as vice president, but as the first black woman vice president, and who got there and who got this man elected largely in part because black women like myself were like, let's do what we always do. Let's show up. You can't get in there in that position and then make such an egregiously false statement.
Oh, she's dumber than I thought. I thought she said slavery, country is built on slavery. People do make that argument. She said the country was built on racism. She haven't picked a book up since she was 3. This country wasn't built on racism. This country, in my personal opinion, was built on greed and necessity. And just because you happen to be not the majority in this country don't mean people are racist against you. I think racial tension happened. It happened. That's not the focal point, was racism. And for somebody, and I want y'all to, for the people that listen on radio, these are 2 black people on a show that everybody in the world can watch. And they telling you that we live in a racist country. What does a non-racist country look like? Heaven? I don't know. What do you expect a non-racist country to look like? If we live in a racist country, what does a non-racist country look like? I never have racial tension with people anywhere. Never. I never do. One person racist. Oh, the country is racist because one person is a racist. One person is sick of y'all getting on TV and blaming the white man all the time, playing the victim, saying that there's a system in place that police officers just kill black people and get away with it because of the law. But not one time mention that black people kill other black people and the leading cause of death for me and my age are being killed by another black man. Put the numbers up there, sis. Put the numbers up there. Year over year, probably about 14 black people are shot unarmed by police. And Stevie Wonder can see that just because you're unarmed don't mean you're not a deadly threat. And let's just hypothetically say that every unarmed black man is innocent. And we know that ain't the case. But let's just, for the sake of argument, that's 14. Hold on. Can y'all hear me? 14. That's 14 black people. Do you know how many die by being murdered by other black people? Over what, 4,000 to 6,000 people. Depending on how you slice it up, There are about 4,000 to 6,000 people a year that are murdered by other black people in the black community. But yet 14 is a pandemic, epidemic. It's an epidemic. And we know that 90% of these unarmed black people are doing things to get shot. You can't name one that ain't. You can't name one. Homeboy put his knee on George Floyd's neck. George Floyd was resisting arrest to start with. I think Chauvin is an idiot, but it ain't like the man was just walking down the street minding his business, and a guy took him and put his knee on his neck. You're stealing out of a store. You're resisting arrest. Rashard Brooks resisting arrest, fighting cops, tried to shoot the cop in the face with a taser. I mean, we can go down the list, brother. It ain't like a black man just walking down the street and getting murked. They doing stuff to get negative interactions with police. But people say it's the cops' fault. All right, hold on. I'll be back after the break. I honestly believe this with my whole heart. You know, slavery was wrong. Slavery was normal back then. Today, it is the most barbaric thing you can ever imagine that somebody's enslaved. We cannot compare morality today to morality back then. It was what it was. I don't understand why America owes anybody who was a slave in this country reparations. The prevailing victor in the civil rights movement, not civil rights movement, but in the Civil War, was the prevailing party, the prevailing side that did not own slaves. What are we even talking about at this point? And this dumb woman, I have to say, I don't like to say stuff like that because God wouldn't want me to call her a dumb woman. Maybe I should call her ignorant. This ignorant woman, Amanda Seals, she must be famous for some reason. I don't even know why she's famous, but I saw the little article. I want to play the clip of what she said because I think she's the most ignorant person. But I know why these people are ignorant because they were brainwashed. I was brainwashed at one point in time when I was young and dumb. But now I realize that this is all bullcrap. This country was not founded on slavery. Some dumb person who's wanting to be a victim is claiming that America was founded on slavery. Not every state had slaves. It was only in the South where it was legal. This country is bigger than just the southern part of our country. This country wasn't founded on slavery. You have to be an incredibly ignorant person at this point, because back then, you if you didn't have books, if you didn't have the right education, you can do research today while you're listening to me. Pull your car over and do some Google research. How many people own slaves? No. I don't want to hear no excuses. The percentage of white people in the South that actually owned slaves was an incredibly insignificant portion of white people. I think it was like 6%. I seen 6%. I seen 4%. I seen less than 1%. I seen all these numbers when you do the research. I ain't never seen more than 6 or 7%. So you're talking about 6% of people utilize slaves. And you got to understand this. Not every slave was a slave on the plantation. I don't understand how people don't get that at this point. Some slaves worked in the house. They never saw the field. Some slaves were drivers. Some slaves had other things that they did. They didn't just all work on a plantation. And not every slave on a plantation was a big plantation. Some people worked just small slave labor for smaller manufacturing. I'm going to say manufacturing, but smaller farming. And then there was these large scale plantations with thousands of slaves, maybe around 1,000 slaves or so. Those are different. These things were different. You look at the hero. I think Harriet Tubman was a hero. But Harriet Tubman, when she decided to start the Underground Railroad, she wasn't working in the field. Massa was whooping on her back, and she out there, and one day she said, you know what, I'm tired of this. And she just go running off. Harriet Tubman was married when she started the Underground Railroad. Her husband was a free black man, that he wasn't even a slave. Her and her husband lived together. Now, I want you to understand that conundrum. All of what they told you about slavery isn't all consistent. How was she living with a free black man and they were sleeping in the same house? Now you got to go and rethink the dynamic of slavery, at least in Harriet Tubman's case. What exactly was her slave relationship like? She had a job. She worked on a job. She made money. Now, the person who owned her, the slave owner, he owned her. And I think at one point she could have gotten her freedom, or she could have bought her freedom at some point, because her parents were free. There was other people that were associated in her life who were free. They were not slaves anymore. I don't understand how at this point we're still talking about the same thing. The first legal slave owner in American history, or in our history of this country, was a black man. Anthony Johnson. Look it up. Don't listen to me. Pull your car over. Put your cell phone down. Put your vodka down. Put the crack pipe down. I don't know whatever you doing. Go do the research. Go look up Anthony Johnson, slave owner. He was the first legal slave owner. Black man. He owned 2 black people for life. He ended up going to court and winning, and ended up winning custody of them for life. There was hundreds of black people in the South who owned hundreds of slaves. Clearly, I believe white people were more prolific, but black people still own slaves. Choctaw Indians own slaves. The Choctaw Indian was the last to release slaves in the history of this country. If you go look at Juneteenth, they got this whole victim recipe. Juneteenth, if they only knew that they were freed, they would have done something. They finally told the black man he was free on Juneteenth. No, they did. It took a year later before the Choctaw Indian released the black people that they had enslaved. Juneteenth wasn't the last day that the final remnant of slaves were freed. That is not true. Do research. So why then, if we know that the first slave owner in America history was black people owned slaves as well, so did Native Americans, then why are we acting as if the white man owes us reparations? Go get the black man and the Native man off the reservation and say, when are y'all gonna start paying reparations? But you know, that don't sell tickets. That don't sell victimhood. So nobody wants to talk about that. This country was not founded on slavery. Slavery was a part of the foundation of this country in the South, but this country was not founded on slavery. And you have all of this prosperity of black people that they'll never tell you about. You will never know about, they never talk about, they never preach about, because every time Black History Month, the shortest month of the year, come around, they all they do is talk about the victims. They don't talk about the victors in black history. People who came from slavery, they were slaves and came out of slavery and were some of the greatest men to ever live. And you bums today, and it's not everybody, but if you the bum, and you know I'm talking to you, bums today living a good life ain't never been a slave. Mama never been a slave. Daddy never been a slave. Mama and daddy graduated from high school, and somehow you more of a victim than the man who was born into slavery. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, I put out 3 videos a day, so make sure you go to the playlist that says new video and watch more videos. Subscribe to this channel. Let's go, baby.